Hi, Brent at thetooljungle.com. Today I'm talking about the evolution of the three-step pads that I designed and created here at my store. To give you a little breakdown, it first started with the three-step dry pads. These pads I originally designed, I'd say close to about 6 years ago, give or take. And these pads were originally designed for installers out in the field because a lot of times in the install crews, they always had to do touch-ups either on seams or edges. So at the time, when you're in a house, you couldn't use water, so they needed some type of dry three-step pad to do the quick fixes. So back then, I invented the original Stone Velocity or SV dry three-step pads. And these pads were only designed to use dry. And back then, the materials were more or less granites, engineered stones. So these three steps kind of took that place. So as time went on, people started saying, you know what about three steps in the shop? So what I did was I went from the install crew dry pads to say, okay, let me think of a good three-step pad that would work inside the shop with water. So then I came out with these ones. These are their standard Stone Velocity three-step pads, which we call just the Wet Granite three-step pads. And once again, these products went really well in the shops. They were really great with the granite engineered stones, and a lot of customers loved them, and they still do today. Likewise with this, I still have many customers buying this, many customers still on this. So as time progressed, we got into the quartzites and a lot of white material and white quartz. So people said, hey, can we have some type of three-step pad that can work on the white materials, specifically quartz? So then I came up with the Stone Velocity white flowered pattern. On my website, I believe I call these the SV flowered pattern three steps. So these pads, what I did with these pads, I made it so it works specifically on the light materials. And I also made it where you can use them dry, because I had these pads that were only dry and they were pretty much more effective on the darker materials. So with these pads, when I created these, I made them specifically work wet or dry. The only time guys are really using these dry are maybe out in the field, like in the houses where water is really limited. Of course, if any type of diamond abrasive made wet or dry, always it will work better wet. Even though it can work for both, it's the science always better with water. So the evolution came from just dry only to the wet ones for the shop with the granite engineered stone, to the demand saying we need stuff for light material. So that's where these came in. And I have other videos on YouTube explaining these more in detail. This is just a little breakdown. So the evolution of these three pads have actually did really well in the entire market all across Australia, United States, South America. So what I did now is I see where the market now is going, and I have a lot of customers saying, you know what, I just want one pad that does everything. I want it to work on the granite, I want it to work on the marble, I want it to work on the light material, I want it to work on everything. I also need it when my guys are in the field installing. When we run into a little hiccup, we got to fix the scratches. Is there anything that I could just have one pad that does it all? And to answer that question, here at the Tool Jungle, I would like to introduce to you the Venom three-step pads. These pads here now can do what took all three of these pads to do. So the Venom three-step pads come 1, 2, 3. The pattern is the very popular, what I call it, flower pattern. This pattern was very similar to this pattern, but it's a different pad. So shops right now, or customers of mine buying all three of these, can now just use these. And here's why. It does work wet or dry. So once again, in the field, you're not going to have a problem. And then in the shop, you now can have your shops uniformed using all three. And I have them labeled Venom Hybrid, which means it's very diverse pad. Pretty much, you know, it's amphibious. You name the situation, it's going to be able to work. And if you're a shop that has never used the three-step pads ever, I say the #1 first time buying three-step pads to try out would be these. And here's how you would use them. If you've never used three-step pads, I always say just start out with 50 grit first. Use any 50 grit you have in the shop. Go 50 grit, 1, 2, 3. Over time, your guys in your shop might eliminate the 50 grit and they'll get more comfortable with these pads. And the difference between three-step pads and say regular diamond polishing pads, it's a little bit different feel, a little bit technique that they've eventually learned how to develop. And that's why I always say starting with the 50 grit. So once again, these are the Venom three-step pads, the flower pattern like that. And I do have 2 more pads. I did. Here we go. I have 2 more pads that you can incorporate with these. We have the coarse and the high gloss. The coarse and the high gloss is very popular more in the field than inside the shop. Because once again, when you're in the field, you're limited to water. So therefore, without water, sometimes the situation, you might need a few more pads. And plus, they might have to really get a situation where they have to take out deep scratches, so you start coarse. So if you're using them this way, if you're going to use all 5, you go coarse, 1, 2, 3, and then what's called the high gloss. And the high gloss can be used anytime if you need an extra pop, an extra sheen on your stone. So in order to use them, go coarse, 1, 2, 3, high gloss. And they are popular in shops. I am getting customers in the shops where they are using a lot of water in their traditional factory shops. At times they do use the coarse and they sometimes use the high gloss. So it's like an extra tools to have in your toolbox.